Panther Nation, the C3 Podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com.
I had fun, man. Just out, you guys joking. We working at the same time. Putting the work in as a team. Like I said, I'm just glad to be with the guys.
My favorite night of the week.
We're gonna go out there and we're playing to win. We're not out here just to show up. We're out here to win.
I don't want guys that want to win, because really, who doesn't? Nobody wants to win. Everybody wants to win. I want players that hate to lose.
Well, this embodies everything that we are as a team, as an organization. Our motto is keep pounding. That's what we do. You know what I'm saying?
What's up, Panther fans? It's Tony Dunn, the C3 Podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. I'm here tonight with my best buddy. He's famous. He's worldwide. He's in Dallas. He's in Charlotte. Who knows where this guy is? We know he's given us his input, though. Mel Mayock. Why don't you go by Mel Mayock outside of this podcast, man?
I just thought it would cause way too much confusion on that show anyway.
That would be the best thing ever. We'll tweet it out after the show or at some point where I can get the command center under control here. But Mel Mayock was on. Where were you at? Were you at a Dallas radio station? Did a great job.
ESPN in Dallas.
That's a big
ESPN
audience.
Radio.
Guys, we got to ask everybody in the YouTube chat, thank you for joining in. Should we ice up Mel for not going as Mel Mayock, but instead going by his real name, Aaron Ford? And at some point, you got to sneak in the C3 Podcast in there. I'm sitting there, I'm rooting.
I tried, man. That dude was leading that conversation.
No, you did great. Don't do that, but that's where my mind goes to.
I was thinking about you, Professor.
All right, guys, we got a fantastic show tonight. It is one of the most complicated show titles I've come up with. Worley's worst, even worse than a quarterback from a car shop drinking beer. I'm going to try to make that sentence make sense by the end of this podcast. We're going to be talking about Daryl Worley, his arrest in Philadelphia, his release, the fallout surrounding that, and, what, if anything. It's kind of a bizarre story, so we just have to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Carolina Panthers and their quarterback situation, their backup quarterback. I was going to talk some defensive ends and draft scouting tonight, but I didn't get a chance to do as much research as I wanted. I got David Harrison coming on next week, so I think we're going to push that back. But we got to talk about Greg Olsen and his feud that has emerged, or it's going to be the driest humor battle between him and Darren Gant ever. The most non-existent, it won't even be worth following except for people like us. But we'll talk about what Greg Olsen had to say to Darren Gant about his contract status and his standings with the Carolina Panthers. All that, and plus, I think that Mel will come up with something else for me to talk about. We got your cat calls tonight. They're going to be fantastic. The number is 252-228-5098, where you can get your voice heard on the C3 Podcast. It's a little past the buzzer at this moment, but call in. We'll get you on next week. But while you're listening now, go ahead and smash that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe, and share this show with at least one Panther friend. We beg of you. We're growing steadily and slowly, as we've been doing since the first hangout many moons ago. But we need you to help us continue that, and you kill it in the chat room and all of that. So that's all we need from you. All right, Mel. That's a lot. How you been, dude? Doing all right?
Been doing all right, man. It's kind of a calm before the storm. You got the draft coming up in a week. You got tomorrow night. You got the schedule actually coming out. Next week we have I can't believe we haven't had him on the show before, but we got Zach from Roaring Riot coming on next week to talk about everything Roaring Riot in the coming year and the travel schedule that they have set up. So lots going on behind the scenes, lots of fun, lots of stuff going on with Draft Tech, new mock drafts coming out all the time. Staying busy. Good to be here.
It looks like there's some streaming issues going on with YouTube. It's kind of going in and out. It goes from good to bad. So we appreciate everybody hanging in there with us right now. We're on Periscope.
Man, check out that chat room, man. There's a lot of people in there, man. Good to see Slim Slim J back. It's good to see J Dub. It's good to see some first timers in there. Legacy lines. Thank you guys for showing up, man. That's what makes this show, Tony. We were talking about it before the show. What is this show all about? And it really is all about just hanging out with Panther Nation, talking Panther football, having a good time.
Yeah, is that it wouldn't change if we had 10,000 in listeners rather than 1,000, and
yeah.
But yeah, a good point is that Zach runs the Roaring Riot, and this is a great fan organization. Just the kind of mission of what we do, which is only just chill and talk about football with other fans, overlaps well with the Roaring Riot mission, which is to grow a culture with of Carolina's fan base. So Zach will come on and tell us about the trips and things in the wake of the schedule release, which comes out tomorrow. And we also, like you said, I mean, look, is there a bigger night of the year for this show and anything than it comes to the draft, dude?
No, man, this is our 6th annual draft party coming up. That's been my favorite show. That and the fantasy football draft show. Those are the 2 best of the year for sure. Yeah,
definitely. All right. So all the plugs, all that's going to be great. Let's talk about Daryl Worley. All right. The Carolina Panthers executed a trade about a month ago, I feel like, where they sent second-year player going into the third year of his contract, which was the final year. I think when you get to the third round and beyond, you get 3-year contracts. So we shipped Daryl Worley, who was a cornerback who was thrust into a very difficult position in Carolina, where we released Josh Norman suddenly, and then we drafted 3 cornerbacks, rookies, and tried to make it work. It was a difficult.
Remember the Three Amigos episode? We wore our hats and everything.
Yeah, that's right. We did. We wore the Mexican hats. Yeah, that was a lot to ask of them. I felt like there was mixed results when it came to what we got out of them. Some of it being situation, some of it maybe they're just not as good as we had hoped in some cases. You didn't catch that lightning bottle. Daryl Worley was one of those guys I was critical of. People are kind of hot and cold on him, and they just don't what to think of him at this point in his career. Well, Carolina shipped him out to his home, Philadelphia. He grew up in Philly, played high school football, and then Ron Rivera kind of distanced himself from Daryl Worley in some ways, saying that they just thought that it was a better situation. He could use a change of scenery, right? So then he goes to Philadelphia. We see that he's working. He's got these workout videos. He seems excited, right, to be in Philly. And then all of a sudden, he pops up in the news. He's been arrested, DUI.
Don't forget, he threw a little bit of smack our way on the way out the door too. So remember the text he put out when the Breland deal fell through, said LOL.
Oh, that's right. And somebody in the chat room, I just got it. Mm-hmm. Like I just got who was it that said it? Wow, that comment needs to get bumped up. It was Kevin Ketchy. Kevin Ketchy came in strong with the LOL. And there's some irony to that, because this past weekend, Daryl Worley was arrested, but arrested in kind of a grand fashion too. He was one of those incidents where he was found asleep at the wheel. He wasn't it sounds like, from what I've read, some very thin reports, right, of what actually happened. I guess it sounded like he was blocking traffic, though. Like he wasn't just in a parking lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty bad when you're passed out. And this isn't the first time I've heard of a guy doing this. Passed out in the middle of the road in your vehicle.
No, didn't this happen to Michael Floyd?
Yes. So, I mean, if you're going to get drunk, don't be in the car. And if you're going to be in your car, don't be on the highway. Just parked in the middle of an intersection, just throwing it in park, got a gun under the seat. Police come to you, you're going to get combative, so you got to get tased. That's not a good look. Not a
I
good
think
night for
I think what happened was he fell asleep at the wheel. They kind of tried to get him out of the car, you know what I'm saying? And he resisted to a certain degree, and then they found the gun later on. So I was reading about this. It wasn't like he was just asleep in a parking lot, you know? It sounds like it was more. So
it was like at the corner of Mint and Moorhead, you know, right outside.
Yeah.
It was right outside of Philadelphia Stadium in the intersection, right?
So
right
two things come to me about this story. I was thinking about it, and I had heard about it before I read about it. So I was trying to figure out like what could have happened. And I think the number one thing is that this probably isn't just booze.
Well, Tony, stories about his ongoing drinking issues, and he was saying that other Panthers drank and that he very well could have been shit-faced during the Saints game last year.
No, where did you hear this?
This was some Twitter conversation that was going on that, you know, that he was drunk during the Saints game. You know, I got no proof of this, but this was conversations that somebody had taken of his and retweeted it out during this whole thing.
Now, the YouTube stream is having tremendous problems right now. Looks like people are resorting to, let me just hit refresh. Maybe that'll do it. People are resorting to watching the show on Facebook. I think it's a YouTube thing.
Sometimes YouTube will crap out, man.
All right. Well, we're recording the show audio. They're back. I'm back. All right. So now who came out with this story? Where'd you hear this?
It was on Twitter, and I was trying to find who. So hopefully somebody else out there saw it, but somebody had retweeted some.
Because there was unorganized team activities. What do you think about that phrase? The unorganized team activities.
Does that mean voluntary?
Yeah, like it can't be organized.
Well, true, and you know, I heard on NFL radio today they were talking about how Tom Brady and Gronkowski, neither one showed up for the Patriots voluntary workouts. So, you know, there's a lot of double standards and a lot that gets picked up on. And hey, if somebody's not there or whatever, it's that big of a deal. I mean, there's double standards. Another story out there is Aaron Rodgers, right? He's, pushing back on the Packers and showing some real emotion about them making decisions without consulting him. Imagine, Tony, if Cam Newton was pouting and talking about not extending his contract and things like that because ownership was not talking to him about who they were going to draft or what free agents they were signing or letting go. It'd be a whole different ballgame than what Aaron Rodgers is hearing. So there is double standards. But back to the Greg Olsen thing. I'd like to talk about that just a little bit. Greg Olsen, to me, is a multifaceted guy, and I think he's a lot like every other person in the world. There's good, there's bad, there's great, there's ugly. And, he's not pure good, he's not pure bad, but I tell you, he's not totally complicit in this. He did do what Darren Gant insinuated, which he does come out and stir the pot and then tries to say, I'm not trying to stir the pot. But he's trying to get more of a contract. He's trying to basically say, hey, I've got this Monday Night Football gig. If I don't get an extension, I can go down that path. Hey, I'll be a free agent next year if I don't get an extension, but I don't want to distract from the team talking about an extension. You don't ever have to bring that out at all to the media. But to bring it out there and to talk about it and then to say, I don't want to be a distraction, you're being a distraction. It's just the truth.
Yeah, I do agree that Darren Gant's right, is that let's not act like Greg Olsen isn't playing the game.
Right.
The one thing that Greg Olsen, though, is that he is playing hard is something that does slightly get under my skin a little bit, but you can't really say anything about it. And that is, like, they play to the fan emotion so much. Like they know, like him, Thomas Davis, they know that they have the fan base wrapped around their finger. And they're not fighting that. Nor should they.